The gentleman from the 23rd District, Representative Hansen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We have heard several members speak very movingly today about their Christian faith and their opposition to this bill. I have very deep respect for these members. Many of us get together every Tuesday morning over in the Senate office building for a time of prayer and Bible study. It's always one of the highlights of my week. But I don't want this debate to leave the impression that Christians all think alike about this question. We don't. Earlier this week, I got a message from the pastor of my church telling me that as an individual Christian, he hopes I vote for this bill. It came out of the blue. We have never talked about this question before. Late last week, I heard from another gentleman in my church, the director of our choir. He's married to his wife, the church organist. They're a pillar of our congregation. And he said he hopes I vote for this bill. We have a lot of gay brothers and sisters in the church, and you don't always hear a lot about that. And some might say that, well, they're not real Christians, and the churches they go to, well, they're not real churches. What if that's wrong? What if God is doing a new thing in the church right now on this question? I mean, remember, as Christians, we believe that it's the stone the builder rejects that becomes the capstone. We believe in a God who tells us in Scripture to call nothing unclean that God has made clean. And we worship a God about whom Paul writes, God calls that which is not as though it is. I grew up in the church. I'm what used to be called a PK, a pastor's kid. In a few weeks, you all will hear my mom right up there delivering the morning prayer before this body. She's a retired minister in the Evangelical Covenant Church. This bill doesn't affect the right of churches to marry or not marry whoever they please. If we pass this bill and your church doesn't want to marry gay couples, it doesn't have to. If we pass this bill and your church wants to marry gay couples, it can. It's just like it was before. C.S. Lewis writes in a book called Mere Christianity that there should be a very clear difference between civil marriage, marriage in the eyes of the law, and religious marriage, marriage in the eyes of the church. The state should set the rules for the former. The church should set the rules for the latter. This bill affects civil marriage and only civil marriage. It does not alter the ability of churches to marry or not marry couples as they please, as they try to discern God's will. I wanted to speak briefly to explain to some of my fellow Christians in this chamber with whom I disagree why I'm voting the way I am on this bill. You've heard from a number of Christians today who are voting no. I want you to hear why this Christian's voting yes. Thanks a lot.